My name is Maya Wu. I am 13 years old, in the 8th grade, and I am student body president of my school. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I attend Monterey Highlands Elementary School in Alhambra, part of the Alhambra Unified School District. Or, I did attend. I live with both my parents, and I have 2 siblings. My father is a veteran of the war who served in Iraq, and my mother is a stay-at-home mom. My younger sister is in the 6th grade and is 11 years old. My brother is in the 2nd grade and just turned 8. This will all be important later. Currently in my school, parents and teachers are afraid to speak out against what they feel is wrong, which is something that should not be accepted as the norm. Unfortunately, it's not just teachers and parents, but students as well. You could even say, my school is run by fear. During the 2012-2013 school year, in light of the Sandy Hook tragedy, the district decided to build a fence around our school campus. Since our school was not enclosed by any physical barrier in its existence, it was a very touchy subject for everyone involved in the community. And that's where my story begins. The controversial decision to build the fence was made worse by the district's lack of communication with the administration, staff, parents, students, and surrounding community. At this point, we didn't necessarily detest the idea of the fence, just how undemocratic the decision to build it was handled. The district and Principal Katani had our safety in mind when constructing the fence. As quoted by my principal, quote, "My priority is to provide and ensure a safe learning environment for all students and staff members," end quote. However, our community was not notified of this decision until the later stages of its construction. By then, it was too late to take any action, and all our efforts by our principal to communicate the building of the barrier would have no bearing on the final outcome. It was all for show. No one ever told students what was occurring with the fence. Students were left in the dark about it, and naturally, we felt that our opinions did not matter. So we decided to create posters and protest the fence and assert our voices. Class time was not interrupted, as we knew better than to take away from instructional time. For the first time that year, students rallied in unison for something that we all believed in. Children of all ages were passionate, proactive, and happy to take part in what we felt was our civic duty. Unfortunately, our administrators saw this positive and galvanizing effect as subversive and an undermining of their authority. Instead of working with us, they threatened to suspend students who were involved. I felt I was the target. Let's get this straight. A school wants to suspend a 4.0 student for putting up posters and exercising her First Amendment rights? What a lovely and welcoming environment. A dissenting voice was not welcomed here. Why were our opinions not welcomed? Shouldn't we have the right to actively exercise our opinions? They never gave us this. They wanted to silence us. There was also fear. As a 7th grade student, I couldn't understand what there was to fear. We were all Americans with First Amendment rights, so what was wrong? I stood up for what I believed was right, printed posters, and taped them up in various locations throughout the campus. I decided to step up and help students shake off their fear and find their voices. The administration didn't seem to like this too much. I guess you could say this is where things fell apart. Around this time, we learned that there were other students and parents who had similar types of incidences in neighboring schools. We banded together, and on June 25th, 2013, a group of us gave speeches at the Alhambra Unified School District board meeting. At that same meeting, a family friend affiliated with the school district approached my mother in the parking lot telling her to essentially cease and desist, but also telling her that he got her our permits and could easily as make them go away. I started my 8th grade year a couple months later. Students were still scared to use their voice, but still angry about the fence and the process, or lack thereof, that the school used to communicate with the student body. Within a few weeks of school starting, my mother and I were called into the office to sign an agreement stating that I would essentially be a good student. After that, things continued and life went on, but with a weary atmosphere. I was elected student body president a few weeks later and excited that I might be able to make some positive changes. I also joined many other more groups like Mock Trial or Optimist Speech Club. Became co-founder of Future Business Leaders of America for our school. All seemed all right, but behind the scenes, my mom and a group of 21 other parents were still fighting the unfair policies with our school. On January 17, 2014, I received my permit revocation letter. It was devastating. But not only was my permit revoked, but my 8-year-old brother and 11-year-old sisters as well. Both fantastic students who have never been in trouble or even tardy. Essentially, the letter gave 4 points as to why we had to leave by January 31st, in the middle of the school year. Not a single point had anything to do with me, my brother, or my sister. They were retaliating against my mother standing up for her First Amendment rights. Who would sink so low as to not even bother of thinking of the children's emotional, academic, or social state, and instead treat us as pawns in a game of chess? The first point given was that my mother accused a school board member of being convicted twice for DUIs, which they called slanderous, and stated, quote, "Your behavior is directly contradicted the civil and honest communication of ideas we expect," end quote. This is quite ironic considering how they dealt with the fence incident. She was merely questioning the tedious fingerprinting process that parents have to go through to step foot on campus. She was drawing a comparison to a school board member, a volunteer at our school. But my mother quickly realized her mistake and then sent out an apology, which they failed to mention in the letter. Even then, my mom sent this email out of honest concern, which was not meant to be slanderous in any way. The second bullet read that my mother passed out unauthorized flyers at our school's holiday program at the Alhambra High School, claiming, quote, "Assistance in the distribution of the materials disrupted the holiday program and sought to shift focus of the evening from the students to your case," end quote. Now, this is particularly a silly reason to revoke our permits. The flyers were not to promote a personal cause, but to share information about the formation of a parent forum for sharing ideas about improving the school. My mom actually was there before the principal and vice principal, and passed out the flyers an hour before the program even began. Finally, my mom was not the only person passing out these flyers. It's evident here that this is a weak and unfair point. The third bullet, in summary, simply states that my mom requested that either she or my dad be present when either my sister, my brother, or I are called into the office. It is here that they state that her request can not be honored. They also write that, quote, "We cannot agree to contact any parent every time a teacher or administrator wishes to speak with the student about a disciplinary issue or any other subject," end quote. These were not my mother's demands. She simply asked only to be contacted if any child was sent to the office. This was just a simple request. My mom was not trying to interfere with school policy or protocol. It is not reason to revoke 3 children's permits. The last bullet states that, quote, "I asked you to come into the office to discuss an issue that arose regarding your daughter, Maya. In an email dated January 6, 2014, you refused to meet with me personally or anyone else from the district, and you demanded that all communication for the remainder of the school period take place via email. While we are all certainly willing to correspond with parents via email, restricting communication to one written form would seriously impede our ability to work with you effectively in the future," end quote. First and foremost, my mom did not refuse nor demand anything. She had to unfortunately and politely decline the meetings due to her schedule and requested that further communication be done via email or regular mail. This was due to the fact that there have been multiple occasions where things have been misinterpreted during meetings or calls. Email was a way to have documented everything that was occurring and have an assurance on all things sent back and forth. Based on these flimsy, weak, and ridiculous points, my brother, sister, and I had our permits revoked, so essentially, we were being kicked out of our school. The letter they wrote and their revocation can easily be seen as childish retaliation to a parent standing up for her First Amendment rights. If my mother and I are guilty of fighting for our rights as American citizens and guilty of wanting America to be America, then so be it. Monterey Highlands and Alhambra Unified School District are obsessed with control and are no longer thinking about students when they make their choices. I have a vision of a school that will embrace student voice and student participation in civic matters. I want to learn in an environment that welcomes free thinkers, opposing viewpoints, and values the democratic process. If this is the current environment, we will produce children who live in fear of authority and not have the ability to think for themselves, and will only use ideals given by higher authorities rather than trying to formalize their own. This is the #1 threat to democracy in our country. I am 13 years old and know the importance of my voice. Thank you.